right, so I'm currently on the phone with Craig. He's another musician that reached out about the current interview session. So I'm going to go ahead and give him the chance to introduce himself.
Yeah, I'm Craig Sorenson. I play in the band Corsair. I've been involved in a handful of different musical projects over the years. Multi-instrumentalist. I play guitar and vocals in Corsair currently. I've played drums, piano, bass. If it makes noise, I will make music out of it.
Perfect. All right. So to start, let's kind of go back in time. Tell me about when you first encountered music. What about it was, important and inspiring, made you want to participate in it?
Yeah, I guess music's really been part of me since I was a baby, basically. As far back as I can remember, you know, I've been involved in music. I've, listened to music, all that. I started with piano lessons. Started with piano lessons back in like elementary school. Did that through like first through sixth grade, and uh, in I think fifth grade or so, joined the school band. So decided to do percussion at that point because I thought drums were cool. So I was like, oh yeah, I'll do drums. I had good rhythm as a little kid, so that worked out. So I did stuck with drums, and that kind of became my main instrument throughout middle school and high school. Played in just about every school band you could think of: jazz band, orchestra, uh, the musical pit orchestra, marching band, all that stuff.
Okay, so you spent a lot of time within the school curriculum for music. How much did you do like outside of it? Did you do like private lessons or anything?
So I did a year of private drum lessons somewhere in middle school with a guy called Elliot Fine, uh, old school jazz drummer. So that's kind of really the root is jazz drumming. Um, I was kind of in that same time, got gifted a guitar, electric guitar by my grandpa, which was really special. So I started teaching myself guitar, looking up tabs and just picking out songs that I liked at the time and trying to learn them. And yeah, from there, that kind of paralleled my, high school kind of drumming career, basically.
All right, so let's move forward a little bit. Tell me about kind of after high school. How did you continue to keep music in your life?
Yeah, so after that, I actually started studying studio production. So I'm an engineer as well, audio engineer, and let's see. Yeah, I guess at that time, out of in college, I was just focused on schooling. Wasn't playing in any bands. I had one in high school, and that's kind of where I got into metal and a lot of the diverse subgroups there. Um, but yeah, after that, I got into studio production, recording. Did some internships with that, and then got into live production. So always going to concerts and seeing awesome bands that I just idolized at the time, and getting really interested in that kind of production aspect and like live performance aspect too.
Sure. So, kind of a tangent question. When you were doing all of the, music education going through high school and stuff, what was kind of your ideal end game? Did it involve doing all the production stuff, or were you kind of hoping for something different? I guess hope is the wrong word there, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I got you. Honestly, it was really focused on being in a band and like playing live, and didn't really get into the production aspect until after that. Um, yeah, so I had like just a high school kind of garage band going.
So once you started doing all the production and stuff, uh, were you kind of set on creating your own little project studio to produce other musicians, or did you kind of always have kind of the vision that you would do that and then also kind of work on your own music?
It was mostly, I think, my kind of home studio setup was really just geared towards making my own music, um, and kind of using my live production skills for helping other bands and running shows. Um, and then, yeah, so I made just like a one man black metal album kind of while I was doing studio production, kind of dabbling in it, figuring it out. And then later down the line, started forming the bands I'm in now.
Okay, so that's exactly where I was going to lead into. So tell me about the kind of scenario and environment you're in that made you want to get back into, being in a band. You mentioned just there that you were looking at starting the bands. So what was the motivation there?
Yeah, so it started with, so at the time I was working at a church as doing audio engineering and just kind of working with and all that. And one of the students in the band playing, Jared, who is in Corsair, my drummer in that, we connected just over heavy metal. So like he's a huge August Burns Red fan, and as am I. So we just kind of started sharing music between each other. And he also, Jared also started these metal versions of movie soundtracks. So he had the Pirates of the Caribbean soundtrack all made into like a metal version, which we ended up recording just kind of like a short portion for like he had a school project or something. So at that time, I was like, oh yeah, my high school band was called Corsair. We had kind of this like vaguely pirate theme thing going. And I'm like, oh yeah, what if we do this, kind of recreate that, use the pirate theme, and make some really good music? So that's kind of where it blossomed from, just that connection between me and Jared.
Corsair name is a little bit more than just a name for a band. It actually has a thematic role into the band as well.
I like the idea of having some sort of concept in it. So I'm a huge Between the Buried and Me fan, into like Pink Floyd, all of just those concept records. And we also have kind of like this storyline going throughout our albums. So which has just kind of blossomed from the way we initially wrote the music. It seemed it was like a jam with a few other songs thrown in, but it was like this one long continuous thing. And as I was writing lyrics for it, it just kind of started forming this idea of, oh yeah, this can just be this continuous thing, start developing characters throughout. And we're now kind of really honing in on what that actually looks like in terms of like a story concept.
Okay, so you mentioned obviously that you've done a couple records and have been doing recording. I assume you guys are also out playing shows and gigging as well.
Yeah, there hasn't been too much this summer, but we've got a handful coming up over the next few months. Yeah, it was kind of so Corsair started 2017, 2018, and we made our one record, started playing a bunch of shows locally, and then had a second record ready to go and recorded that. And then the pandemic hit, so everything was shut down and we weren't playing live. But we were able to just kind of use that time to make the record better. But it kind of, yeah, put a little damper on our momentum of getting out there. We hope to tour and are starting to get some regional dates put together.
So, tell me what is in the future for you guys. Obviously, you mentioned that you're working on new recordings. You have some shows coming up. What do you kind of see for yourself in 5-10 years? Where do you want this to go?
I would love to national touring act. We've got our third full length album coming out probably before the end of the year, and we've got a handful of ideas for additional albums and concepts that kind of. So we've got a couple additional ideas that actually go beyond the pirate concept, and but we're also developing just this kind of this really big stage production, because our performances are pretty theatrical in nature, just because it's kind of this story concept. So I'd like yeah, I'd like to be able to play bigger theaters and yeah, just tour around as much as we can.
So tell me a couple of your, most prominent memories that you have that, have had an impact on you, whether it be, show you went to or the albums you put together. What kind of keeps you motivated?
Oh yeah, I guess yeah, a couple really highlights, and I would say even kind of back in the origins of like getting into metal. I remember my buddy in middle school who I made the band with, like the first time of puppets, and we were just like freaking out, and then got to the middle interlude, and he was like, "Oh yeah, this part's kind of boring, so we'll just skip it and get back to the heavy stuff." And of course, like looking back at it years later, I'm like, that's just it's a masterpiece. Why were we skipping it? We were a bunch of dumb kids.
Mhm.
Um, I would say another like impactful show. I remember seeing Dragon Force, Teresis, and Power Glove. Just epic. I remember Teresis coming out in full Viking garb and had a violin player and accordion, and it just blew my mind of like, this is metal, but there's these folk instruments happening. So that blossomed folk metal of like Illaviti and Agalok and a lot of those kind of Scandinavian folk metal.
Very cool. So where can people find Corsair and follow you and check you out?
So our website is www.corsair.band. We're also all over Facebook, Instagram, Bandcamp, Spotify, all of the things usually under Corsair MN. Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything for that.
I'd like to give the person I'm interviewing the opportunity to put out their final word. So what's a message that you have that you want to share with other people?
Yeah, I'd say, live the life of your dreams and know that they're just kind of live in freedom and adventure. That's kind of one thing Corsair is all about is adventure. Uh, life is not as dismal as a lot make it out to be. And I know it can be difficult in a lot of seasons of people's lives, but ultimately there is, um, I would say, a hopeful adventure awaiting you out there.